Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. We broadcast 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. And if you're tuned in during that time, and if you would like to call us, and if you would like to participate, and if you have something to say that is cogent, succinct, on point, relevant, and important, please do. Please do. And the telephone number to do that, which we will pay for, is 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. And just as an aside, all the calls that we get here are exactly what I delineated, exactly. So I don't want any of you to think that had you called in previously that you don't meet that criteria. You do. And I believe that we have the best and the brightest class in the world of radio. I really do. You know, Rush Limbaugh and those guys have ditto heads, and a ditto head, I guess, is a repeater. And if someone doesn't say it first for them, they don't get it. But you guys get it. You really do. And I appreciate that. Telephone listen line. We have one that's up and running, 712-770-9418. 712-770-9418. That's by Global Star. And it's live. Well, we're live. And it's up all the time. But it is only active for USA Prepares when we are live, 9 through 11 a.m. Central Time. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Guineith Isaacs is live with us in Australia. Welcome, Guineith.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm $150 ahead in the account. And I mentioned that at the beginning, and I'll tell you what that means. So every time CenturyLink goes down, when I'm on the air or when I need the internet for something important, not something frivolous. I'm not talking about watching movies. I'm talking about when it's important for me to check market prices, like if we're going to sell cows and determine the weather, take the weather reports and try to figure out what we're going to do here to survive at the farm, or broadcast. And when CenturyLink goes down and I can't broadcast or I get taken off the air, I call them up. So yesterday I wrote down the 3 times that it went down while I was on the air. And I called them up, and I'll give you the number in just a second, class. Again, this is the secret number. They don't want you to have it. I called them, and I said, I'm calling for my $50 credit times 3. Here's when the internet went down. Here's why it's important to me. And she said, okay, I'll credit you right now. I said, okay, thank you very much. So we are credited now about $240 on our account. So I said, pretty soon you're going to start paying me. You'll be writing me checks because the internet goes down so often. So here's the number, 866-270-7498, 866-270-7498. So next thing I asked, her name was Amanda. I write down the names every time I call them. I get different people, and I reference the people I've called in the past. And I said, do you know these people? Well, they've helped me in the past. And they've got extensive notes on my calls. So I said to Amanda, Amanda, is your call volume up? Oh, yeah. I said, well, you're welcome. And then I explained to her that I give out their 800 or 866 number for the loyalty department, the customer retention department at CenturyLink every time the internet goes down while I'm on the air. And I tell people to call with bona fide reasons and, don't scream and yell at these people because they're not the problem. They're there to give you $50 every time it goes down. But I explained to her that the problem is top management. And guess what? She agrees. She agrees. And by the way, she likes the independent media. Not only that, she knows who Alex Jones is.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, she asked me, she said, so you do radio and you do talk radio, yep. Is it, well, we do educational radio. We do radio rather than talk radio. We actually do it rather than talk about it. But she asked me about Alex Jones, and I said, well, I've never met him, never talked to him. I invited him to the expo, but I've never heard back from him. But we're on the same network. And she thought that was really cool. So now we have doubled the number of people who are in our class because she's going to listen. And so welcome, Amanda. So the really important thing, Guineith, I guess, is it's hard to eclipse this one, is the coronavirus.
Yeah. Often we have different things that we would like to discuss in the class, and it all ends up being a good broadcast because we end up being on the same page. And somehow the different things that we want to discuss end up being the same thing. Isn't that right, Vincent?
That's right, all the time. I would say it's right 100% of the time. I don't think it's ever, in all the years that we've been broadcasting together, Guineith, I don't think we have ever diverged on what we think is important and what we talk about. And even though we say, okay, why don't we talk about A, B, C, D, and E, and if something happens that we both recognize, we talk about that. Absolutely.
We go, yeah, let's talk about that instead. Yeah, That's right. We email each other before in the day or two before the show, so that we're not quite flying by the seat of our pants. Oh, shush! So we're not quite flying by the seat of our pants. So, but yeah, the coronavirus is something that could be, let's just say, a real game changer.
By the way,
yeah.
we have a new dog, and we just adopted him. He was running around in the freezing. He was soaking wet, frozen ice on her back. A little puppy, kind of brand new, maybe 6 weeks old. Lost as could be, walking around our farm. People drop them off because they don't want them, so they just drop them off, and they hope that, I guess they hope, that either they'll die or someone will adopt them. So we adopted her, and she heard your dogs barking, and now she's barking. We brought her to the vet, and the vet said, we wanted to know what kind of dog she was, and the vet said she's a Terrier 57.
Yeah.
a Terrier 57.
Well, our dogs are barking because we've got a dog who basically, he's a sheepdog. He's an outside dog. We can't have him just running all over the place because he'll go over the neighbour's place and round up the neighbour's sheep. And then, they'll get angry and they'll probably shoot him. That's not even kidding there, by the way. So he has to be restrained outside because of who he is. But he's our kangaroo patrol, and every time a kangaroo goes bouncing up the valley, he decides that it's his job to let everybody know. So that's what happened there. A kangaroo quite literally went hopping through the darkness down the valley, and he saw it and he smelled it. And that's there's a kangaroo out there. Oh, my gosh, I want to go and chase it. Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, and that's what sets all the others off. And that might happen like sometimes 2 or 3 times a night. So, because that down the bottom of the valley is a bit of a kangaroo thoroughfare. But anyway, the coronavirus, oh my gosh. That's, it's really, really important. This, every day that goes past, this gets worse, which is exactly what you would expect to see in an outbreak of a major pandemic. I mean, I was talking about Alex Jones. I was listening to the Alex Jones show yesterday, and at one point in his broadcast, he said there was a 15, or it might have been your broadcast, He said it was either you or him was saying that it was a 15% kill rate, meaning that 1 out of 6 people who got it was going to die. And then at another point it became a 50% kill rate, which means that, that half of the people that got it are going to die. Now, either of those is very, very serious. That puts it on, on the Tucker scale of pandemics or epidemics. Having it at a 15% kill rate puts it at about a 7 or an 8. Having a 50% kill rate puts it about 8 or a 9, with 10 being the maximum amount that you should be worried, that your mouth and your face and your lips should be puckering when you think about it. Does that make sense, Vincent?
You're talking about the R naught number, 7 or 8 or 8 or 9?
The R naught number, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. And
well, I'm looking, Guineith. I'm looking at an image right now on the internet. It is all 201 Americans on a rescue flight from coronavirus epicenter, Wuhan, pass health screening during fuel stop in Alaska, okay, before the plane heads to a California military base. So I'm looking at
what are they doing that for?
Well,
the government is paying to transport people from Wuhan back to America.
That's correct.
That is the most ridiculous, stupid, absolute worst thing you could do.
Right.
Because for sure, at least a few of those people are going to have that virus.
Uh-huh.
For
well,
sure.
I'm looking at an image which appears to be the co-pilot. And the co-pilot is wearing a full hazmat suit. A full hazmat suit. I'm talking about, one of those white Tyvek type suits. Face mask pulled around his entire face. So he's got the face mask on. He's got his sunglasses on. He's got the hazmat suit on. And it looks to me like he is in the co-pilot seat. It really does. Then I'm looking at the ramp that the passengers get off on. They walk off the plane. Everybody on the ramp I see is wearing a face mask as well. So,
in other words, none of them want to die.
That's what it seems like to me.
They have just imported 200 people from this highly contagious area and put them into California.
Yeah, and if I'm reading, if I'm reading this right, the side of the airplane has an identifier as to the airline, and it reads China Airlines or China Airways. I can't.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is pure. You know what that's like, Vincent? That's like in the old days where they would have an army that was invading a city, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they would get the catapult, and they would get a few people who had died of the bubonic plague, and they would put their corpses into the catapult, and then they would catapult their bodies into the city that they were wanting to.
Hold that thought. Guineith Isaacs is with us, and we're absolutely serious, class. So on Monday, I was on the air with Dr. Norm Shuley, and I reported that there were just over 1,900 cases of coronavirus. 1,900. Just less than 2,000. Tuesday, there were 4,500 cases. Yesterday. This morning, at 10:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5,500 cases. So 1,000 more cases from yesterday to today. Almost 2,500 more cases from Monday to Tuesday. The numbers are climbing very, very quickly. So, according to what I'm reading, and I'm trying to read a lot of it, a lot of what's available. So these are confirmed cases or suspected cases of coronavirus in the United States and Canada. British Columbia, Washington State, California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Tennessee, North Carolina, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York, Michigan, Toronto, Minnesota, right now. So now the government is actually thinking about doing the right thing. It takes a long time for government to pay attention, I guess. They're thinking of suspending flights to China, to that area of China. Now, think about it. Would you like to hop on a plane that might have had passengers that might have had the coronavirus on that plane, sitting in that seat, coughing and hacking into the recirculation ventilation system of that airplane? I believe the number that I read years and years ago, probably a couple decades ago, is that the air is recirculated about 10 or 11 times before you get fresh air. Want to hop on one of those planes? Do you want to buy products from China? I am building right now a box with ultraviolet light, UVA, B, and C, that will disinfect, break up the DNA, as I've read, of the surface of the box. And when I open the contents, of course, rubber gloves, latex gloves, and leave that in this box as well. You need to have eye protection when you work with ultraviolet light. Pretty serious stuff. Now, I knew this was a possibility, and I bought the ultraviolet LEDs from China over a year ago for disinfecting purposes. They were not expensive. They were about $10 each. Actually, some of them were $6. So you may want to consider that as well. There are several things that we need for the farm that are made in China. And I'm wrestling with how to handle that. Items that could come, in the mail or UPS or Federal Express. I haven't decided how I want to handle that yet. But this is pretty serious. Actually, it's very serious. David in Illinois, welcome. Thank you for calling.
How you doing? I was watching about the news about this virus over the weekend, and there was a nurse from that city that said that she was on some of the social media platforms, and she said they already have over 90,000 infected in that city.
That's correct. That is correct.
And that was before, now I took my wife to her doctor the very 1st of January, and I noticed they started doing the screening again, and I just laughed about it. I said, what's going on? You screening again? There's something going on? And she just kind of smirked and wouldn't answer the question. And I was like, okay. Then you see this pop up.
That 90,000 number I read as well over the weekend. And that is not the official number. That is a number from a nurse who is very close to the source of this epidemic. And that's her number. And the numbers I've seen are millions by February. That's like not too soon. I mean, not too far away, right? Real soon. We'll be right back. Dave, please hold. Guineith is with us. David is with us. And in epidemiology, the basic number of an infection can be thought of as the number of cases that one case generates over the course of its infectious period. Let me tell you what that really means. So David mentioned 90,000. Some people may say, no, that can't be. Let me tell you how it can be. So the first person gets it. If the R naught, and that's the basic reproduction number, R naught, if the R naught equals 8, the first person gives it to 8 people. Then those 8 people give it to 64. Then those 64 give it to 512. Those 512 give it to 4,096. So Monday, there's 1 who infects 8. Tuesday, there are 64. Wednesday, there's 512. Thursday, there's 4096. So you can see how quickly this is ramping up. That's with an R0 of 8. Now, we don't know exactly what the R0 is. No one's really going to tell us. So how does this happen? Well, some people go to the mall and restaurants and Walmart and JCPenney and Aldi and the movies and ball games and school and the doctor's office, just to name a few stops. That's how it happens. David?
Yeah, the thing that worries me, and I've kind of brought this up before, we have California is the worst place you could take them people to. I mean, they have no idea how many people are there. They're using facilities all over the streets. They got, the plague, tuberculosis, typhus. Now you're going to mix that in? And if something starts to happen there, do you think they're going to shut down the state? I highly doubt it. Then people are going to walk and take off to the inner United States, and they're going to carry it right to everybody else.
Gwyneth?
Yeah, I'd say that's the idea. It seems to me like the Chinese government's doing this on purpose. This is like smallpox blankets to the Indians. I think even the dumbest Democrats out there know the story of how, there were particular malicious people at the first settlement of white people in the United States who went and took smallpox-infected blankets to the Indians and wiped out whole tribes that way. And some of these tribes never saw a white man because they were completely wiped out by white man's diseases before a white man ever appeared. And it seems to me that that's what the Chinese are doing here. They're throwing plague-infested bodies over the city walls and then giving us a nice present of smallpox-infected blankets. And that's what they're doing by sending this load of 200 people home. And also the climate in California is warm compared to the rest of the United States pretty well all the time. It doesn't really snow there very much. And from what I hear, especially around Los Angeles, it doesn't even really get frosty. So that's why people can live outside all year round. You couldn't live outside here all year round. It would be too cold and too wet in the winter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's but it seems like somebody in the Chinese bureaucracy has really sat down and had a good old think what would be the best place to import these people so they have the maximum chance of surviving long enough at least to go out and mingle and circulate. I think that if they drop them in the middle of St. Paul at the moment, that those people, they'd probably spread it because they'd all be indoors. But, maybe they wouldn't live long enough for it to really be bad. You know what I mean, Vincent?
Yeah. Here's another thought that I read an article that said that this was a lab experiment that got out. This was a virus that got out, and it was from Canada, and it was from Canada. And the thought was, well, the lab where this was held or being used for testing was for humanitarian purposes to generate vaccines for such a terrible virus. Well, then it was thought that it was stolen by the Chinese, and the jar broke over there in Wuhan.
Aww.
So the jar broke, and now it got out. So maybe this plane load is retaliation by the Chinese toward the Americans.
What were these Chinese scientists doing with that jar of level 4 pathogen in Wuhan anyway?
And what? Well,
Yeah,
and
I would say even the story that the jar broke is a bit of a ruse. It's like, yeah, the jar broke with the help.
Yeah, that was my terminology, that the jar broke. But what I'm saying is, what was anyone doing with this virus to begin with? Why was it being stored? You know, it can always get out. There could be an earthquake, a fire. There are a lot of a plane crashing into the building. There are a lot of ways that these viruses can get out. So I think it's just darn dangerous even playing with these things. But yet governments do that, right? That's what they do. They play with nasty, nasty devices that are lethal. You know, atomic weapons, nuclear weapons, infectious weapons, chemical weapons, right? That's what they do to keep everybody safe. Well, there's another story that talked about how in the areas in China that the residents are building walls. They're taking whatever they can, like leftover bricks, and they're blocking the thoroughfares, the roadways, so vehicles and people can't get from one place to another, to self-quarantine themselves and to prevent infectious disease like this coronavirus from spreading to their neighborhoods. What a great idea. Now, are Americans smart enough to do that? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. David, your thoughts? Any other material that you'd like to share with us that you've learned that jives with what we're talking about?
Well, first of all, I don't think they would close. You know, it'll take quite a bit to close cities down in America. There's always going to be these young, stupid people that are going to say, hey, it's my right to go, even if they're going to walk into something that may cause their death. That's just, they're brain dead to me. But I made a comment while we were talking about this when we seen about it this weekend at the table. And I said, I wonder if this is a gift from starting the trade war. You know,
very, very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, so, you know, because, like I said, they're landing them in the middle, and I've always told people the next pandemic's going to probably come from California, the way them people are living. I mean, if I didn't watch it and see it, I wouldn't have believed it myself, you know. So that's just like a breeding ground.
I lived in California with Mrs. Finelli for 18 months in 1980 or so, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the weather's nice, but the crime is out of control, absolutely out of control, and people are me first. I was on an airplane flying from the East Coast to California, and I happened to sit next to this gal, and she was older than I, and we were just talking on the way to California, and she asked me, she was an entrepreneur in California, and she said to me, well, let me ask you, what would you rather do? Would you rather die owing a lot of money or die leaving a lot of money? And I said, well, it's easy. If I had to choose between those two, it would be die leaving a lot of money. And she indicated that you're never going to make it, because that's not what California and entrepreneurship is about. It's about borrowing lots of money, using that money for the risk of the business. And if it doesn't work, well, it's not your money, so it's not so bad, because you owe it and you can't pay it back. And that's kind of like the Donald Trump way of doing things. Now, I did not vote for him, and I did not vote against him. I didn't vote at all. But I know that he's been bankrupt many times. That is almost the equivalent of dying owing a lot of money. Almost. Except you get to live owing a lot of money. So I always had a problem. I even had a problem with us selling stock on the stock market, because I thought, gosh, if we fail, we're going to let down a whole bunch of people. We will have taken their money and we will have failed. And I have a problem with that. So we didn't sell stock, because it was morally reprehensible to me to take other people's money, fail, and then say, geez, well, let's try something else. We'll just go bankrupt. But this coronavirus really, really frightens me. And I said to Mrs. Finelli before the broadcast, we're having a morning warm beverage, and I said, I don't think America can handle staying home for as long as it may take. They won't be able to stand it. They won't be able to stay home, lock their doors, not let their friends in, not go to the mall, not go to the movies, not play golf, not whatever they normally do. They won't be able to stand not doing it because they're so used to me first, and I want what I want, and I want it now. I think it's going to be a real problem. Any comments, David? Then Gwyneth?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think they can handle staying in their home. We had a situation here that came up about right before 2008 where they quarantined our whole area because they were looking for some suspects that came right through our yard. It was amazing how many of my neighbors could not stand to be forced to stay in their house. I mean, they didn't even have food. You know, they would go out to eat just by what I've seen then, and something like this is going to be a lot longer. That was just a day, and they had problems.
Gwyneth, your thoughts?
Well, I think that a lot of people they simply won't be able to do it, and I've worked pretty hard in getting this place pretty prepared, and we wouldn't starve on this place if we couldn't go out. But, I would say that we would only probably just make it, actually, of where we are now. We're just beginning to, after, almost 7 years of being on this place. This isn't a semi-arid climate, by the way. After 7 years of being on this place in a semi-arid climate, I think I might just be beginning to figure out how to do it. And people think that they're going to be able to just, move on to their bush block and then, figure it out that weekend. That's just it, But, we wouldn't starve, but our diet at the moment would be pretty boring. There would be a few staples that we would be eating constantly and they would keep us alive. And, we'd probably let the dogs chase the kangaroos a bit. And, follow them when they were doing that and that sort of thing. And, so we wouldn't starve, but, that's
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. David, Gwyneth, and I. Coronavirus. Got food? Well, let me mention a few names of corporations. Nikon, Canon, JVC, Sony, Honda, Lexus, Nissan, Mitsubishi. Those are Japanese brand names, considered in high regard, yes? Well, during World War II, there was a food shortage in Japan. We helped that because we bombed some of the areas where some of their soldiers were located. So what did the Japanese do? Well, what would you do? What would you do if you're absolutely starving? Well, the Japanese resorted to, not all of them, just some, resorted to cannibalism. They ate their enemies, they ate civilians, and they ate grass. Now, have any of you thought of what is the extension of the coronavirus? Will there be food shortages? Will there be rioting? Will there be disruption? Will people not show up for work, like at the electric grids? Will people just be so consumed with taking care of their families that they won't show up for work? Will people wall off and not allow transportation to continue the way it is now? Seems like that could happen to me. So, eating your neighbors, eating enemies, eating your front lawn. What if you applied Scott's weed and feed on your lawn? Insecticide. And then you have to eat your lawn. Just asking. We don't use pesticides here at the farm. We don't have a front lawn that looks like a golf. Well, actually, it does look like a golf course, but that's because we use natural fertilizer, cow manure. We let the cows come right up to the house, and then we spread the cow manure around. So it does look pretty good. But it's not uniform. It's not just one kind of grass. It's like lots of kinds of grass. Guineith, any comments about what I said about cannibalism as a result of starvation? Eating grass?
Yeah, you will see that. It happens every time. Okay? And it's actually in the Bible that, that's actually a curse for people not following God and his ways. And, they had quarantine in the Bible. If you had an infectious disease in Bible times in Israel, then you were required to camp somewhere outside of the city. And, you were not allowed to, you had to have your family members take food to you. If you didn't have family members, well, you starved. They didn't have as many infectious diseases back then. The main one was leprosy, which is still with us and is still really bad and still highly infectious. But that's where the leper camps come from. That's called quarantine. And there's laws in the Bible about quarantine, and you should not go circulating among the general population if you've got a highly infectious illness, like leprosy or like coronavirus. Coronavirus is just the common cold on steroids, basically. But going back to what we were talking about with Indian tribes, there were whole Indian tribes that were wiped out by the common cold, and the common cold reached them on the wing before they even saw a white man, because they happened to be living downwind of where the boat landed. That had all these white people on them, and one of these white people happened to have a case of the common cold, which is a coronavirus. We know that now. They didn't back then, and they didn't know anything about infectious diseases much back then, except that they were infectious and that you should stay away from such people because you might catch whatever they've got. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yes, and so now the next question, obviously, is can you envision a run on antibiotics?
Yeah, antibiotics. They don't work against viruses. This is a virus.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
antibiotics
but as people get sicker and sicker, can you envision a run on antibiotics and other medicines? Because a lot of our
people will be too stupid to realize that this is a virus and antibiotics won't work against it. They'll just take the antibiotics because that's what they've been conditioned to do.
Right. And where does a lot of our medicine come from right now? That would be China. A lot of our medications come from China. Now, are we going to suspect contamination of medicine from China? Are we going to accept it? Another question. David, when we come back, do you have any other comments?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, David's with us in Illinois, USA Preparedness Instructor. Marine. Guineith Isaacs, Australia. And I'm in Missouri. We'll be back after top of the hour. News and commercial announcements. Let's see what the news has to say about the coronavirus. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. David is live with us in Illinois. David, you had a couple more comments?
Yeah. Now, since this started, we discussed it. We're carrying our masks with us whenever we go out again. We have some. They're a lot better than the masks you buy in your boxes of them. They're really good. But here's a question I'd like to ask you. Now, the protesters the students and all the younger people protesting was in Hong Kong, correct?
That I have not followed, so you've got me on that.
Okay. Well,
I don't know.
Here's where I was going with this. A lot of the students and people were protesting there. So with this new outbreak, they went and the government was putting up a 1,000-bed hospittal there for those people. The protesters went and burned it down.
No, I don't know about that. Wow.
Yeah.
I know that they were building it, and They expected to have it completed in less than a week, typically, I guess, 5 days, and they were going to build 3 more. We reported that, but I didn't know they burned it down.
Right, no, not that. That's the ones they're building. This was a building that was separate, that they put 1,000 beds to help, these people. And the protesters went in there and burned it down. Now, here's why I brought that up. That's how the younger people are thinking now. So you take that, you bring it over here to the States. You try to get them help. You can't tell them what to do. They're going to do whatever they want to do until they don't have food or they don't have water. Then they're going to expect somebody else to give it. And when they don't, they're going to come raiding everybody else's houses, and it's going to be just one big mess problem.
I agree with you. I agree. And we've talked about something like this over the last several months. And I've mentioned I don't know 10 people whom I would have here at the farm who I could absolutely, positively trust to just stand guard, just do one thing. All you have to do is stand guard on that section of the compound. Okay, so 4 people on, let's say there's 4 sides to the rectangle of the compound, if that were the case. So all we need is 4 people to stand guard and have the 2-way radios and report if they see any kind of a threat coming our way. That's all they have to do. I don't know 10 people who I could, who are around here, who would do that, who I could trust to do that. So, I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do that today. And it's not fair. I mean, those kinds of things. It's a real problem. So I keep hearing from people who have tried, I'm talking about instructors, who have tried to get people together to work together, and they keep coming back to their phrase is, it looks like I'm going to be a lone wolf. Can you imagine that? I've been an abject failure. I've tried to get people to come. I can't even, I thought, okay, 200 acres, we'll take 100 of it and make it the village for use by the whole village. And 1 acre per person or per family. You buy your own acre and you share the other 100 acres, so a 200-acre compound, and we all work together. One person was interested, Joanne. And, I only talked about it for a few weeks. So Rich Stephen thinks that we should do it. I've tried. I think it's a great idea. Joey thinks we should do it. Miles thinks we should do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. And maybe it's because it's America. Maybe it's because people don't think. Most people in America who are alive today have not been through the Great Depression. Most people have not been through World War I and World War II. They don't know what it's like to be bombed and shelled. They don't know what it's like to live through hardships and eat grass. They don't know. I mentioned got 22s. 22 long rifles, what I'm talking about. And I said you might have to shoot small things. In the 1950s, there was a drought here in Missouri, right where we are. I wasn't here at the time. There was a drought. And the food supply dried up for wildlife. Every deer, wild turkey was shot for food. Farmers were cutting down trees to try to feed their cows, and they couldn't do it. So a lot of cows were lost, lots of herds were lost, animals were lost, wildlife was shot and killed for food. And so when I say 22, you might have to shoot birds, if there are any left. You might have to shoot squirrels, if you can find one. That's what I'm talking about. That's how bad it can be. You might have to make stew or soup with stones and grass. Now, stone soup is something that's, kind of it's a fairy tale. It's, we can make some soup out of stones. We'll just throw some stones in there and some water and heat it up. Maybe we ought to throw in some grass. Get any carrots, let's throw them in there too. So eventually it becomes soup. But I think we are facing a really rough ride in the future. Now, it may not be the coronavirus. It could be the grid. It could be a nuclear meltdown. It could be a war. It could be a chemical attack. I don't know what it is, but I want to be ready for it. And I hope you do too, class. Guineith?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there, and I absolutely agree. And, I was, well, earlier on, I still would like to keep writing, but the thing is, as I've been looking at my vegetable garden, and I've been saying to myself, this vegetable garden needs work more than my books need work, because in a few months' time, we could be facing a major, I think it's actually quite likely here in Australia that we will be facing a major systemic collapse here. And if I've got vegetables growing, then it'll help to feed us. But more than that, I've also put in other plants on this property that I know to be actually really, really fine, edible plants that are vegetables, but most people wouldn't recognize them as being vegetables. Most people would recognize them as being garden plants, okay, or weeds. But I've been, sort of half cultivating them here. And, if anybody wants to find out what such plants are, they can go on the internet and they can look up wild crafting forage foods. They can look at wild crafting herbs. So even if a rampaging mob came through here and completely stripped out my vegetable garden, I don't actually think that a lot of people would be able to recognize some vegetables if they saw them growing. I actually think that a lot of people would be that stupid that they actually wouldn't recognize vegetables if they were, not in a properly set out garden setting. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yeah, Rich even talks about. Yeah, Rich even talks about
if
that.
You had potatoes planted here and there about underneath in your flower bed, they wouldn't necessarily recognize that this was a potato, for example.
That's right.
And if you get a big bag of potatoes, this is what I've been doing. I've been getting big bags of potatoes from the supermarket. I don't know if this will work in America, but it works here. I think they put chemicals on the potatoes in America to retard them from shooting. But they can't do that here in Australia. Those chemicals aren't approved here or something. And so you buy a bag of, like a 5 kilo, 10 kilo bag of potatoes from the supermarket, like a 20-pound bag of potatoes or a 10-pound bag of potatoes, and then you just put it in the back of your cupboard for about a month. And the eyes on the potatoes start growing, and then you take them and you bury them about 6 inches deep in your garden, and they will grow. They will make a potato plant. It's just little things like that. And even like I just bought a bag of potato and then got caught up with other things, and, had too many potatoes, and the potatoes started growing in their bags. And instead of throwing them out, I took them out into the garden and planted them. But it's like this. There's other plants as well that people definitely would not recognize as being anything edible. But I know that they're edible, and I've eaten them, and they're actually jolly nice. So even if rampaging mobs, and by the way, if rampaging mobs came through here, there's no way that they would take me by surprise. And they, might have to deal with me and my dogs and Lucille and my projectile firing device. And, my son and I both defending this place. So I think it would probably be a better idea if they went on down the road to somebody else who's a bit easier to raid and loot.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Vincent?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've got a gate, and we're going to chain it. And if we've got some people that hop the gate, it'll be terrible. It'll be terrible. So what they need to do is not plan to take things from people who have prepared. They need to prepare for themselves. Because I have no use. Right. I have no use for people who are me first, who are squandering their money going to Disney and the movies and having golf and all kinds of fun things, theme parks, and squandering their money when they could be preparing, and then they expect that we're going to take care of them. We are not going to take care of them. We're not going to do it. There'll be a shootout at the farm. No question about it. Someone wants to steal from us, there'll be a shootout. Now, if we can help them, we might. But they've got to do something for it. They're just not going to say, I'm hungry. Everybody's hungry. Everybody's hungry. So what makes them special? What's that?
I don't think that would work, because I'll tell you why. If they haven't managed to get off their backsides and do something now, then they're not going to be capable of understanding when you say, oh, see, this has got a spade, and I need a trench to be dug, and I need it to be dug on contour. Mm-hmm. You know, they wouldn't know what on contour means. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that you know what on contour means, and I know what on contour means. But it would take time, it would take too much precious time to explain to them that, you know, you need to dig it on the flat part of the hill where the hill's going neither up nor down. Right. And they would say, oh, why do you need to dig it there? And it would raise too many stupid questions that aren't even relevant. You know why you dig a ditch on contour?
Yeah. Then you'd need to use the face
from flowing down the hill.
Yeah, then you'd need to use the face of the shovel for something else, like tuning up these stupid questions.
That's right. And then you might have to plant an orange tree, mm-hmm. or a lemon tree.
Well, we have been telling you, you and David and I, and Norm and Rich and John Reagan, we've all been talking about this for over 8 years now, that you need to prepare, you need to learn, you need to try, you need to buy a farm. It's getting to be really close to being too late. If you haven't done it, you ought to do it, like right now. So, depending on the numbers you believe, the death rate, extrapolations in the United States of America for pneumonia are about 62,000 a year. 62,000 people a year die from pneumonia. And that's what we're talking about. Actually, I think the numbers are probably higher than that. But this coronavirus, I believe, is very, very serious. So our recommendations that you consider talking about in your family tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. Do you have bleach? Do you have hydrogen peroxide? Do you have food? Do you have enough, whatever it is, to heat your house through the winter if you need to have it heated? Are you going to allow other people to come into your house? If you have children, are you going to allow them to play with other children? Are you going to allow them into your house? Because you have no idea who they have been in contact with, and you have no idea who their parents or their family has been in contact with. And you have no idea who's on the school bus with them and who they've contacted. What are you going to do to reduce your risk of dying from this or contracting it and passing it on? What are you going to do? So why don't you have that meeting and talk about what you think you need? We've done this at our house every day. Every day we do this. What do we need? What is essential? It'd be nice to have? What do we need to do? What are the chores? What are the tasks? What are the supplies? What are the spare parts? This is what we do every day. And you might want to do that. Instead of going to the movies. Turn the TV off. Put those darn cell phones away. David, any comments?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's this particular virus. There's going to be something happen. Something's going to happen. So, I mean, and people argue that, oh, you need money to do this and that. We don't hardly have any income at all. And every time I'm out, I get something for the house and make sure I'm stocking up on something. I'm always looking for the deal to buy. Same thing with ammo.
Okay. Good for you. Good for you. And that is the plan. Frugality. And there are the thrift stores. And you can buy things for pennies on the dollar. Literally. No question about it. And go for durability. At least in my opinion. That's what we do here. We don't want anything that's going to wear out quickly. And there are things that you don't need. So don't buy the things you don't need. Buy the things you do need. And teach the skills. Here at our farm, if I think that Mrs. Finelli needs to know something that she may not be up to speed on, let's say I just built something new and she hasn't seen it yet. And it's something that, she hasn't helped me finish. And when I finish it, I'll invite the whole family to come on over for a training session. Here's what it is. Here's how it works. And here's what can go wrong. And here are the spare parts you need. And here's what you look at if there's a failure. And here's how you can tell if there's a failure. And here's what you do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. That's what we do. So everything is a lesson here. Everything is a lesson here. And I'm not the only one that does that. If Mrs. Finelli finds something or the boys find something, any member of our family, if they find something that they think we need to know about, they tell us. They tell us, meaning everybody. Everybody knows. Because if something happens to one of us, the others need to know how to carry on. It's as simple as that. And it's absolutely true. And no, you don't have to buy everything new, and no, you don't have to waste money, and no, you don't have to follow the herd and do what your neighbors are doing, because your neighbors are probably more like the GDP than not like the GDP. So it's lonely. It's really lonely because your neighbors are probably still thinking you're kind of odd because you pay attention to different things from them. And if you don't know the latest sports score, they think there's something wrong with you. Of course, I think the opposite. I think there's something wrong with them. Yes, David. Yeah, well, one, I don't go to sports. We're not involved in the sports. But here's how some of these young people or these other people think. This last trip I went, I had to buy one thing. Instead, I got ammo. I got everything I could that they had, which they're running low here, too, in the stores. But when I'm leaving, I'm getting home, bringing everything back. They're like, what are you planning for the apocalypse? I'm like, no, I just, I hate going around people. I do,
I don't want to be around.
Many, many years ago, I bought some 22s in a 500 packet at the Chinese factory outlet. I think I bought maybe 4 of them. So 1,000 rounds. And the guy behind the counter said, what are you getting ready to start a war? I said, if I were going to start a war, I wouldn't be using 22s. I was teaching the Boy Scouts how to shoot. We'll be right back. Now I'm looking at TalkStream Live and the rankings, and I'm just trying to figure out, what are these other guys talking about, these other guys and gals? What are they talking about? Is it important? I don't know. I can't listen to it all, and I don't listen to the radio. I'm just wondering, what are they talking about that could be more important than you protecting your family and you surviving the threats that are 360 degrees plus top and bottom all around us? Guineith, what would you like to share with us today?
Okay, I would like to share what you could do to look after yourself medically during this particular little outbreak or any other outbreak that happens. I've got a pretty good idea why these Hong Kong students went and burnt down this 1,000-bed hospital, because I'm pretty sure that the Chinese government was going to import about 1,000 people with the novel coronavirus to Hong Kong for the purposes of giving them medical treatment, and while they were there, they would have passed on that coronavirus all through the Hong Kong population, and that's why the Hong Kongers burnt down that facility. So personally, I say good on them, because they didn't want 1,000 people with the coronavirus imported into their country. And, here in Australia, we're still accepting flights from China. It's insane. So, school goes back here next week, and they're not closing any schools. There's going to be children who have come straight back from their holidays in China. There's quite a number of schools in Melbourne where half the students come from China, okay? Their families, that is. And a lot of these students, they spend their Christmas holidays with their families in China, and then they come back to Australia, and then they go to school. It's not just me saying it. It's been on Channel 9 News, which is one of the biggest news networks in our country. It's been on Sky News. which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, and it's been on ABC, which is the government propaganda, the Australian ABC, that is, which is the government propaganda channel. And they've all been saying about these students coming back from China and, literally arriving this week and then going back into school next week. So technically, they might still even be in their incubation period for this Wuhan coronavirus. That is a disaster waiting to happen. And, something you're going to have to, not you specifically, but the people in the class might find that they have to deal with their own medical treatment, because the worst thing that you could do with this coronavirus, even if you suspect that you have it, the worst thing that you could do is go to a hospital. Because if it is the coronavirus, then your immune system's going to be compromised. You're going to have people breathing out, sneezing, coughing, wheezing, blowing their noses, sweating, and all sorts all around you. Those hospitals are just going to be shedding the coronavirus like you would not believe. And even if you just had a regular common cold and you thought it was the coronavirus and then you went to the hospital thinking that you had the coronavirus, you wouldn't have had the coronavirus before you got there, but as soon as you get there, you're going to be infected with it. So you are going to have to deal with your own medical treatment at home. And I'll share something of what I do here with you, okay? Because this is something that could possibly save people's lives. And it works. But I have to say, this particular cure, I emailed you about this cure earlier on, Vincent. The alcohol cure for
please share it. Please share it.
I would like to share it. This is a very, very, very old traditional remedy. It's from every culture on the earth. The Irish have this remedy. The Greeks have this remedy. The Japanese and the Chinese have this remedy, and it works wherever people use it. Okay. As soon as you get this.
Do we just
not use
did we just lose? Okay. You just dropped out for a second, so please start over.
Oh, sorry. What was that? Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, you just dropped out. Please repeat.
Okay. If you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, you should not use this cure. If you have liver or kidney problems, you should use this cure with extreme caution. Now, that said, I have got NAFLD, and I have used this cure, but I've monitored myself through it, okay? So I'm not, and my NAFLD, because most of the time I eat really, really healthy food, it's under control, okay? But if you've got something like active fatty liver disorder, that's what NAFLD is, fatty liver disorder, or any other sort of pancreatic or kidney or liver, just, you've got to be aware of what you're doing. But if for regular people who are not alcoholics, this cure works, and it works pretty well every time. As soon as you get the symptoms of a cold or a flu developing or a fever, what you do is you get a bottle of hard liquor and you get drunk with however much hard liquor it will normally take you to get drunk, okay? And you basically drink yourself to the time when you're, happy and, inebriated. And then you go and sleep it off, okay? So you don't drink yourself to unconsciousness. You just drink yourself to the fact where you're intoxicated. And then you go to bed and you go to sleep. You wake up in the morning, and I did this last year when I had a really, really serious flu developing, and I thought, oh, crud, I'm going to be in big trouble if I don't do something quick. And I remembered what my friend Nick the Spartan had said, and he told me about this cure, and I remember other people telling me about it, and so I said, right, I'm going to do that. So I went out and bought myself a bottle of vodka, and I got drunk. And I woke up the next morning, and I was about 50% better. So the day wore on, and it got to be about, 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and I had another 6 or 8 shots of vodka, got myself drunk again, woke up in the morning, and I was about 75% better. And I did that for about 3 or 4 days running, but by the time I got to day 4, my liver was really beginning to feel it. And so I said, right, I'm not going to do that again. Okay? But I got 90% better from a very, very serious flu that I knew was going to take me down for weeks. And I was rid of it in 4 days, 90% rid of it within 4 days by doing that cure. And to give it a bit of an extra boost, what I do is I get medicinal herbs that I grow here, like, for instance, garlic, calendula officinalis, that's marigold, and I grow onions, and I grow various other sorts of medicinal herbs. And you can do your own research. There's a whole long list of them. You can use sage, you can use rosemary, you can use echinacea. The only one that you really can't use is anything in the Artemisia family. So any of the wormwoods, you should not do that because they really, you'll make something called absinthe, okay, which is actually pretty poisonous and it kills your brain cells. And it'll definitely kill your liver if you get into the habit of drinking absinthe, and it'll kill you within probably a couple of years of drinking it. And that's made by soaking wormwood in alcohol. So you shouldn't do that. But any other herb, you can soak it in alcohol, medicinal herb, that is, okay, and you will make a pretty effective cough mixture. And you can take that, even if you have just a regular sore throat or a slight cough, you take a shot of it and you gargle it, okay, and you swish it around in your mouth, and then you swallow it. And if you do that just like 2 or 3 times a day, then your sore throat will be gone within a day, something that would normally absolutely take you down. So this is the purpose. This is why you should maybe make friends, maybe not too much, but in a collapse situation, the local moonshiners down the road, you could maybe arrange a deal with them where they provide you with hard liquor and you provide them with medicine. That's a possible solution because probably they don't know how to make this sort of medicine. And probably that they're going to be facing the same sort of issues as all the rest of us face, with the exception that people who drink a lot of hard liquor hardly ever get sick because the alcohol in the system just kills all the germs and viruses and bugs and, pathogens, worms and all the rest of it. And I'm not saying that people should regularly drink hard liquor. I'm absolutely not saying that because it will destroy your liver and you'll die within a few years if you get into the habit of drinking hard liquor. But it does have its purpose and its use. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yes, it is. Yes, it does. And when you talk about taking alcohol and soaking, soaking, let's say, leaves or making tinctures with alcohol, you're not talking about rubbing alcohol. You're talking about, and we got to make sure that everyone understands.
No, I'm talking about things like gin and whiskey and vodka. and
Right.
rum and stuff like that. Not rubbing
Right.
alcohol.
And when I make it,
Okay.
when I make a tincture of cayenne pepper, I'll use vodka, and I will take fresh. Yeah, I'll take fresh cayenne peppers and other very hot peppers, and some garlic, fresh garlic, and crush it. Put it in a mash, if you will, with vodka. I'll put it in a jar that's filled almost completely. I put it in a cabinet, shake it a couple times a day, and 30 to 60 days later, you have a tincture. You can filter it with a coffee filter. But we are talking about vodka. We're talking about gin. So for my tinctures, I use vodka. Do not use alcohol.
You can use gin.
Yes, you can.
Use
I
any
don't.
hard liquor.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
I just use vodka. But do not use rubbing alcohol. We'll be right back. Just a quick update. So the Chinese are having a protective mask and a protective suit shortage in Wuhan. New York City their shops are facing a face mask shortage about the coronavirus, because of the coronavirus. And a couple months ago, I was at a thrift store, and they couldn't wait for people to buy surgical masks. So they were selling them for 5 cents a piece. 5 cents a piece. So, I bought a couple boxes. How many in a box? I don't know, 500. Unbelievable. But so preparedness is having what you need before you need it. Having what you need before you need it. Very quick thought. I just bought a copy of the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Healing Remedies by C. Norman Shuley. That's Dr. Shuley. And you can buy one for about $5. I think I paid $5 and a couple pennies. Shipped, hardcover. Today, I bought one today. And so you may want to get that. They're on eBay. They're used. It's an encyclopedia. It's about 500 pages, and you may want to get one. Here's one, $3.99 plus $3.25 shipping. See if you can get it in the hardcover. It generally doesn't say hardcover or softcover unless you actually look at the listing or the offer. So if you can get it in hardcover, great. If you have to get it in paperback, that's okay too. Okay, 500 pages. It's a coffee table book. You need this book. If you're only going to buy one book, that is the book. David, any comments?
That's one of the things that people should make sure they really get is first aid equipment, because they may have to stay in the house and not be able to do nothing. And them books are going to help tremendously. That's if they read them and go do what's advised.
Yeah, turn off the TV, turn off the cell phone, sit down and open the book and read it cover to cover. Turn every single page, commit some of it to memory so you know where it is, when you need it, and you'll have a head start. You'll have a head start on what to do when you have this problem, whatever this problem may be. Absolutely. I think you need to consider this. This is probably, if you're only going to buy one book for your entire life, this is the one to get. The Illustrated Encyclopedia of Healing Remedies by C. Norman Shuley, Shealy, M.D. Okay? Don't get the I don't know if it's available on, like a PDF, but you want one with pages. Gwyneth, your thoughts?
Okay, I would absolutely advise having a library of medical books. I would like to get that book. I would like to get Dr. Shuley's book. I have other medicinal books here, books on anatomy, books about herbs, books about medicine. And so that is one that is on my shopping list. That's one that I want, definitely. But yeah, and also, I don't know if he's put out an encyclopedia of illnesses. I don't know if he's made a book like that.
I don't.
But I don't know. I have an encyclopedia of illnesses, which is rather handy. And I found it in a thrift shop one day. And it's just sort of sitting there. So I said, "Oh, you're coming." No, hang on. That was it was in a deceased estate that I bought one. And so that instead of going on the market stall, that went on my bookshelf. So that was a handy thing. But yeah, I would advise people go out and buy from their nursery seedlings of medicinal herbs, especially Calendula officinalis. If you can only buy a few, I would buy Calendula, and I would buy comfrey, and I would buy garlic. I would make sure. And you can get garlic from the supermarket, bags of garlic cloves, okay? You can divide up the cloves and you can plant them in your garden and they will grow in season, okay, when it's the right season. And if it's cold, you can get a plant pot and you can fill it with potting mix and you can grow garlic inside in a sunny window in the winter, if you're in an area where it's all snowy outside. And then if you become ill, then you can even just get a clove of garlic out of your garden, pull it out, wash it off, and chew it. And that will be a real beneficial help, okay, to you. I just need to mention one last thing, okay, about the whole alcohol thing. If you don't have time to do the alcohol thing, you can boil the herbs in water, okay, and it'll be almost as good if you make a herbal tea. But you should still have the bottle of alcohol on hand, and you should put a shot of alcohol into the herbal tea, because the alcohol opens up the blood vessels, and it's an adjuvant to just about every other chemical out there. Okay, so if you take your herbal medicine with a shot of alcohol in the medicine, then the medicine
5 seconds.
will work better. And they even do that with cough syrup.
5 seconds.
Ethanol in the cough.
Okay. David, thank you. Guineith, thank you.